going to begin our conversation with some welcoming remarks from Paul Weisenfeld, who is the Executive Vice President of the International Development Group at RTI.
Thank you, Catherine. It's always a little weird to be introduced by Catherine when she's the one who did all the work for something. The limelight, and you'll hear from her a little later. But it is a real honor to invite you here to officially launch RTI Center for Thriving Children.
Yes,
We were going to have a video shown shortly, but we're having some technical problems, so apologies for that. But we're still going to have a wonderful event. Thank you for coming. This is really exciting. And I wanted to start off talking about why. This is just immediately. Wanted to talk about why RTI is out. That does make a big difference. So, as many of you know, there's a silent crisis facing the world. Staggering figure is 250 million children around the world are missing the critical inputs they need to thrive, including good nutrition and health care, responsive caregiving, opportunities for early learning and protection from harm. Seems to be going in and out. Is it okay? Can people hear that?
Yes.
The good news is that based on research and real-world evidence, that we know what children need to thrive. However, as a global community, we continue to face significant challenges delivering. Perhaps most critically, it's proven difficult for much of the world to align the resources and the technical know-how to deliver solutions. RTI Center for Thriving Children tries to address the heart of this problem by bringing together experts across a wide array of disciplines to advance a holistic approach for healthy development and the well-being of children everywhere. At both the Research Institute and the implementer of programs that solve complex development programs, RTI is committed to act. Our mission is to improve the human condition by turning knowledge into practice. We apply our knowledge and continually learn as we go and adapt as we go. The Center for Thriving Children is intended to embody these best elements of RTI. It'll seek to push boundaries, ask hard questions, and challenge us to be better. We'll use our platform to provide evidence to policymakers and practitioners, raise awareness about the importance and value of investing in children, and partner with advocacy organizations that are doing the same. The Center is built on partnership, and we welcome opportunities to collaborate and connect. This especially includes partnering with local organizations and amplifying local voices. It also includes promoting locally led solutions and keeping the spotlight on local stakeholders and leaders further along. Today's event is an opportunity to come together and move this conversation forward about how to invest in children and achieve results. Our topic today is implementing inclusive, integrated early childhood development programs in low and middle-income countries. It challenges us to think across sectors and silos, to think locally and to act in new ways about the problems we're trying to solve and ultimately develop potential solutions. Our guests will share insight from their own experiences with integrated ECD programs in Cambodia and Rwanda, as well as Ukrainian refugees in Poland. As we'll hear, integrating the multi-sectoral elements of nurturing care and putting them into practice is easier said than done. The panel is the first of what we hope will be many convenings in the coming months and years in which researchers and practitioners share experiences, study results, and learn together. I'm going to turn it back over to Catherine, who's the brains behind the center. We're going to move into our panel discussion, which she'll moderate. She leads the early childhood development practice area at RTI, and she led the team to establish the center. So please welcome Catherine.
Thanks, Paul. Oh, yeah. See.
It kind of works.
It kind of works. Yeah, yeah, we do. Okay, thanks everybody again for coming. I want to just draw your attention. Not use the microphone. Can you hear me? Okay.
You have to project it. You're gonna, you have to
You need the microphone. Okay. Everybody should have had an orange card on their seat. And if you have questions throughout the panel, please fill in your card and then just raise it up. And we have some helpers around the room who will wave their hands, who will come and pick up your card and give you another one. So if you have more questions, you can write them on the card. You can put your name and an organization if you want onto the card or not, that's fine. And we'll get to as many questions as we can. If we run out of time, I really encourage everybody to stay afterward. We've got more food and coffee, so take your time, chat with our panelists. They've come a long way to be here and have a lot to share. Okay. So with that, I'd like to introduce our panel. I'm going to start with, I'll start introducing Immaculée, who's right here. Is an early childhood development advisor with Catholic Relief Services in Rwanda. She has over 10 years of experience in ECD roles in a variety of settings, including nonprofit organizations and government agencies. And she currently leads the ECD work on the USAID Rwanda Inclusive Nutrition and Early Childhood Development Activity, where she's managing all of the ECD work of that program. Okay, next is Monica. Monica Wozniak is the chair of the Foundation for Child Development in Poland. She has been working with parents, teachers, local governments, and NGOs for over 40 years on the early care and education of young children. She's the author of A Good Start for Preschoolers. And since the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, she has been leading a Spinka program, which she's going to tell us more about, which is founded to provide care and early education for Ukrainian refugees in Poland. Really terrible. Okay. It's fine. All right. And finally, we have Chani Chek from Cambodia. He works on the USAID funded Integrated Early Childhood Development Program in Cambodia. He is responsible for providing technical expertise and capacity buildings to partners and stakeholders on disability and inclusion services. He's been involved in the development of the Cambodian Developmental Milestones Assessment Tool, and also the Cambodian National Disability Strategic Plan. So thank you to our panelists. And I also want to introduce Jamie, who's sitting right here in the front. Jamie is from the Children in Adversity Office, and she'll come up and serve as discussant on the panel at the end. She's a technical advisor who is implementing the U.S. government's strategy, advancing protection and care for children in adversity. She has over 12 years of experience in child development, care, and protection programming. And Jamie's office has provided funding for the programs in Rwanda and Cambodia that we're hearing about today. So after we hear from our panelists, Jamie will come up and share some remarks. Okay, so with that, I'm going to kick us off and just ask each of you to introduce yourselves and your program so that the audience can learn a little bit more about your work. And Immaculée, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Catherine. Good morning, everyone. I would like to first start by thanking RTI for inviting CRS Rwanda to come and share our experience of implementing the Inclusive Nutrition and Early Childhood Development Program. So it's a 5 years program funded by USAID, and we are based in 10 out of the 30 districts of Rwanda. We cover, or we aim at reaching around 800,000 women in reproductive age and over 700,000 children under the age of 6. So it's a big program. We are currently in our second year, and our key interventions are nutrition, early childhood development, disability inclusion, physical rehabilitation, assistive technology, and we also have cross-cutting interventions such as social behavior change, capacity strengthening, food security promotion, and socioeconomic strengthening. So mainly we aim at improving the services we provide to parents by educating parents so that they can better support their children. If I give a bit of details, in early childhood development, we have key interventions. First, we work with the community to improve access to early childhood development services. Currently, we have around 24% of children under the age of 6 who have access to pre-primary education. The numbers are really still very low, and we work with the community to renovate and set up nurturing care hubs. So the nurturing care hub are early childhood development facilities that we set them up at the village level. We work with the community, as I said, and they do the renovation work themselves so that we can avail that space for children. And we also work with their parents and train them so that they can have the know-how to look after those children as their primary caregivers in those centers. For the early childhood development, we also provide parenting education sessions because we recognize that parents need to have all the knowledge necessary so that they can better care for their children if we want them to reach optimal development. So every month we have sessions in the village where parents learn about how to feed children, how to play with children, how to make locally made toys, things like that, so that they can have that knowledge and they can apply it in their homes. We also found out that parents need to learn how to better protect their children. We still have a lot of children who are left alone or at home or with children under the age of 10. So this is a child protection issue, and availing those facilities, those early childhood development facilities in the community helps to provide space where parents can leave their children when they go to work, but also parents need to understand why it's an issue to leave a child alone and raise awareness in the community with local government so that they can know how to handle child protection cases and the facilities available so that they can better support children. We have many interventions. To be brief, we also provide nutrition support so that we can alleviate malnutrition in the young children. At the village level, we have what we call village nutrition schools, where parents with children under the age of 5 come and learn how to prepare nutritious meals, learn how they can grow a kitchen garden, that's how we call it, a garden in their home, so that they can have access to vegetables and support in their cooking. And also parents support each other and discuss, and it's like a support system. And it helps in supporting those children who have maybe malnutrition to get better. So those, I would say, are a few of the services we provide, but all the services are provided in an integrated form because we understand that children need to have all that package so that they can reach their optimum development. And parents are at the front of all our services. We make sure that we build their knowledge and we coach them. We don't give handouts, but instead we educate parents and we coach them so that they can better be better parents for their children and they can have the knowledge which will sustain in a long time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
I came here from Poland. I'm for the first time in Washington, and I'm really amazed. I spent half the day yesterday in Smithsonian Natural History Museum, and I dreamed for that for many years. Dreams can. Why I'm talking about it? Because our work is kind of work for natural development and struggling for continuity. Continuity with respect for children, to allow them to grow freely, strongly, to be prepared for peacetime, and to be resilient and strong when time is tough. More than 1 year ago, the war begins in Ukraine. And in few weeks even, we had more than 2 million people who are fleeing to Poland, including 300,000 children from 0 to 3. Our foundation, we are working for 20 years already, in rural areas, working with children from difficult environment. We are working, we have experience in that. We created very innovative programs for training, for teachers, for local communities. We were small, but experienced organization. And we had to make big decision. Okay, we can help. How to do that? First, fast, because children cannot wait. Mothers have to go to work to find, the place to live. They are lost. They don't feel secure. So we decided that we can do what we know how to do that. We created early educational nurturing care centers. The program was named Spinka. Spinka means in Ukrainian spinal or backrest of the chair. In Poland means clip, paper clip, hair clip, like to connect what is not connected. So in our program, we connect by supporting and support by connecting. We had to work fast, and we decided that we will do things before it will be maybe excellent. We were thinking that the good quality center is better than the excellent in the paper. So we were struggling for being the better and better all the time. We were improving our quality during the work. We make mistakes, of course, and we learn from them. We got funds from international organizations, mostly charity organizations. We got funds from UNICEF, International, Love, IRC, and many others, even private persons. So we had, chance to help them. 1 year, that is 1 year already. We have 72 centers in 48 cities and towns in Poland. We helped more than 12,000 children already. We trained and give job to more than 400 Ukrainian refugees to be educators. And we think that this program changes their life, not only children's life, not only mothers, but also, educators' life. Our goals, we have 3 main goals. First, to create good or very good nurturing care education for children. To let them feel happy, to play, to give them chance to be strong, resilient. We prepared quality standards, we prepared manuals, we enrich our curriculum, adding multicultural education and psychological help for children. The second goal is to give mothers chance to live. So our centers are open 8 hours and we adjust hours to needs of parents. Thanks to that, mother can get job, get housing, and don't have to go back to Ukraine to the war. Because if they don't have, house, they have to go back. Very often they don't have houses there. They are home. And they can help they can help their own relatives in Ukraine. Very often they send what they earn, they send back to Ukraine. And the third is to let children, parents, be safe. We develop our psychological help to them. They need it. We help, sometimes we have to help our educators to get professional psychiatric help. Because, when you are a teacher, you are working by yourself. This is your job. So if they cannot be themselves, they cannot work. But I think this program makes us very proud, not only by ourselves, but by them, because they are very proud of themselves. And now they are, and we are thinking about the future. We'll see. Thank you.
Okay, so my turn. So I would like to briefly explain you about one activity that granted by USAID for Cambodia. It is called Integrated Early Childhood Development Activity. We have a 5 years activity. We start from May 2021 and we will end at April 2025. So that is the halfway of the project. So the project or the activity is divided into 3 cohort period. So we have the cohort 1, cohort 2, and cohort 3. It will be taken for 15 months. And we are now in the cohort 2 at the middle of the project. So for the integrated early childhood education, we provide the support to children under 5, and we have 3 main objectives. The objective 1 is focusing on providing the nutrition care to the children by advocate the caregiver to look after the children and to changing their attitude to look after the children more. So because of our project is we implemented in the rural area of Cambodia at the northwest of Cambodia. Is located near the border of Thailand and Laos, which is have more higher rate of the migration, poverty, and also indigenous group. So we would like to encourage the caregiver to even take more care to their children. Either he is migrating to other areas, so we want to bring them back and support their children. So that is doing through the objective 1 related to nutrition care session. So we educate them and we explain them how to take a good care of child. Second activity, we decrease stunning for the children because that area they have many of children who have malnutrition. So we focusing on provide the nutrition support to the children as well. And the third objective is about providing the support to the children with developmental delay and disability. That is one of my role to leading the objective 3. We focusing on the children with disability and development delay. And in Cambodia, I can say that if you think about the history, the disability is under the Ministry of Social Affairs, Work, Trade and Youth Rehabilitation. At that time, they focused disability only about the physical disability because they have a victim from war, from the landmine or something. So from the beginning, we just thinking to support disability for those who have physical disability. But since the disability is not only happen from the war, the landmine, it's caused from the accident, other disease, and the children also could have disability. It's not only physical, but they have a problem with mental, cognitive, language, or others. So Cambodia start to, moving to the next step that it's on the mandate of changing disability and rehabilitation from Ministry of Social Affairs to the Ministry of Health. So that is a good opportunity for Cambodia, especially while we get supported from US government, to really to transfer these services from the social affairs to Ministry of Health. So in our project, we supported for identify the children to find them, to where they are located, what their problems or something like that. So we use our screening tool we call community-based development milestone assessment tool. It is a tool that we can, observe from what the children are doing, rather than just ask questions to the parent what your children or something like that. So we use the tool by using both subjective and objective assessment to ask the parent and also to observe from the children. So from this, we find out a lot of children who have development delay disability because they have a variety of type of disability there, especially when they have lack of nutrition support, they have lack of care from from the caregiver, or they are living in poverty. So that while we doing the screening, and we found a lot of people. After we identify them, and then we refer them to the services and make sure that services have a good quality, sustainable for the children. So that is another activity after we identify, and we refer them to the services. As you know, that is something that we moving from the disabilities perspective and rehabilitation, because in our country we just providing the support to those who are easily to find from their physical rehab, but those who may have speech difficulty, intellectual disability, they lack of services or service provider to support of those. So that is a good opportunity also for Cambodian, especially government, to think of what are the available services to make sure that those children who may need special need, they can have opportunity to receive services. So we are now trying to advocate the involvement from government agency to support the children. So we call the integrated, we call the integrated project. It means that we bring other ministry, from Ministry of Social Affairs, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, so they come together and work together. So that is another thing that we do. So for disability in Cambodia, I can say that we have a big movement for the responsibility. Yeah.
Hey everybody. So one of the things we want to dig into a little bit is the collaboration with government. We know that in integrated ECD programs, we're often working with multiple ministries: Ministry of Health, Ministry of Social Affairs, Gender, Youth, nutrition organizations and entities, etc. And that collaboration can present problems in the field and challenges. So I'd like to hear from you first, Immaculate, about working with the multiple government agencies.
Thank you, Catherine. So implementing an integrated project is complex and requires collaboration, as she mentioned. In Rwanda, we are fortunate to have a government which has put in place different agencies and institutions to implement or to oversee the areas we are trying to provide intervention team. For example, we have the Ministry of Health with agencies such as the Rwanda Medical Health Center. We have the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion, which has an agency in charge of reducing malnutrition and stunting called the National Child Development Agency. And we have under the Ministry of Local Government an agency in charge of supporting persons with disabilities called the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. So these agencies and institutions put in place policies and provide an enabling environment where we can be able to provide our interventions. So at the national level, I would say that that enabling environment is there. We have all the policies, we have the strategies and the guidelines. Where we have a challenge is going from the national level to the community. Sometimes you'll find that though the policies are in place, they are not well known when you go down to the district or to the sector, or when you collaborate with local government. You will go to a certain office and you will find that those policies are not well known of. Therefore, the interventions you are trying to bring forward are not well understood because they don't know that there are policies which have been put in place at the national level that advocate for that. So it requires patience and it requires collaboration with those national institutions so that we can go down to the community first, explain the policies that are in place and introduce our interventions after having built their knowledge and improving their understanding on the enabling policies that have been put in place. So we always try to collaborate with government institutions from planning, from the village level to the national level. We work with all the institutions and government officials we are going to be working with in implementation, even from the planning. We go and ask them what are their priorities, what they see as challenge, and we capture them. And then we ensure that they are reflected in our planning. And we come back as we implement, we go again and see them and inform them how we are going to be doing it and how we would like to collaborate in our implementation. So we found that this is very helpful because at the end of the day, sustainability comes from the community. All the interventions we can put in place, if they cannot be sustained by the community, by local government, it will be a loss for us. So we ensure that every intervention we do, if it's an activity, we first inform and build the capacity of the local authorities, the community, and we approach it with the same understanding so that when we come to implementation, we are all on the same board. I can give an example for early childhood development interventions. One of our priority is to support the government to scale, to give access to early childhood development facilities, but also quality services. And to do that, we renovated, rehabilitated facilities which were existing in the community, and we worked with local government to achieve that. They would identify facilities which are government-owned, which have not been in use, and working with the community, we were able to renovate those facilities and use them as early childhood development facilities. And the facilities were provided by government themselves, like by local government itself. And afterwards, we actually realized that, and they realized actually that it's something that was feasible because they had facilities which had not been used, which they can use to rehabilitate and serve such a great purpose. And also they realized that they can bring on board local support, such as business persons, to support with funding so that they can rehabilitate such facilities. And another way we found that this collaboration has bring a good impact is that the local government adds our interventions in their Imihigo. Imihigo is performance contracts the government sign every year. Local government sign with national institutions, showing that we aim to achieve this and this in this area. So we found that the interventions that we have been doing have been captured in the Mihigo, which shows also that they trust our implementation, and they think that what we do is valuable and valuable to their community, and it's also helping them achieve what they aim for their community or in their people. So we found that this has been a good way of resolving that challenge of collaboration by communicating and approaching them and ensuring the planning is done together, and also that they have the right level of information so that they can understand the interventions we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's pass it down to Taylor.
I can pretend that like a child in preschool. Okay, I will speak loudly, okay? This is very interesting because in Poland we have almost the same situation. We have national government who sets the law. We have two ministries on the early education. One is the Ministry of Social Affairs. It refers to children from 0 to 3 years old, and they supervise nurseries. And we have Ministry of Education, who is running preschools, schools, universities, and this is like splitted system. And we have local governments. National government sets the law, but responsibility for implementing is on local. And in Poland, even before war, we didn't have very big experience with nurseries. So in many cities and towns, there is no anything. And when we come with spinkas, we have to teach the local municipalities how they can register that, how can supervise that. There is no, specific regulation. So we are working together with each municipality to help them to provide, some regulations for our centers. Why we do that? Because we want our settings to be sustainable after funding is ending, and it's ending, yes. So we want to have this in the future and to settle in a Polish system. So those Ukrainian refugees who will decide to stay in Poland after the war, they have chance to have their own Polish-Ukrainian centers. Why it's important for them? Because parents for young children, they need their own children to speak Ukrainian as a first language, not to be implemented in Polish system. They are open for multi-cultural integration, but this is rather acculturation, nor just implementing and disappearing Ukrainian culture and language. So this is important for our system in local level, and we are sure that in a national level, this is important to implement like our Ukrainian cohort in Polish system. So this is what we are doing. That was very interesting. Okay, I'm passing you.
So I think for Cambodia, it's also quite similar to Poland and to Rwanda. We have in the high level, it's about the national level that have ministry of each ministry, like Ministry of Health or Education or something. And then at the central level, we have the provincial department, who are supported from what the policy at the national level is doing. And then we have the local authority. It is at the district level and community level. So you can see they have 3 different levels, and you can see they have many different sectors. like Ministry of Health, Education, Rural Development, Women Affairs, something. So you can think of some challenge that could be happen when we have the multiple sector to involve. So for the integrated early childhood development project that we do, that is one kind of integrated approach that we bring those government to work together to support the children, especially for those who have developmental delay and disability. So as I mentioned early on, there's only in the mandate of Ministry of Social Affairs who are going to support, I can say not children, people with disability as a whole. But as they only support it for those who have physical rehabilitation. But how about the children who have other type of disability that I mentioned earlier? So there is a lack of services that can be supported by Ministry of Social Affairs. So as we bring many, all of the agencies together, then they start to recognize the challenge. They start to see the gap. So while we refer these services to the Ministry of Health, but the Ministry of Health, they don't have the resource. They're willing to bring their services to their mandate, but where is the resource, especially for those who have specialists on that? And because they are focusing on, the disability in physical, there is no other services for those who have autistic or other type of disability. And those type of services is running by the NGO, I can say, or it's running by some pediatric hospital that located very far from where the province that we are implementing. So it is a kind of thing that we do is that we bring the specialists back to community. So what we do is we provide capacity building to all of those government officers, like we bring the health center staff, we bring the physical rehabilitation center that is under the Ministry of Social Affairs. So bring them together and build them the capacity. So we provide the capacity on using the screening tool so that they can know the type of disability. And then we explain them about the flag sign, the red flag sign, so that they can know which of level or situation of the children that they can support it in community or home-based support, or what type of situation that they need to refer those children to the professional. So that is another thing that we try to mobilize at the community level. As we know, we have like local authority, the middle level, and the high level of government. So we are implementing at the community and to see what are the gaps, what are the needs. And then we bring those information to the middle, and then probably we expected that the policy maker, they will, doing something to support that. So we do the screening in the village after we provide education to the community people so that they can screen the children, and then they see a huge of data, like I mentioned before, because that two provinces that we do, I forget to mention. So we work in Kampong Thom province and the Prepahia province that is in the borders Thailand and Laos. It's a remote area, and then we found out a lot of children who need service, but those areas they have lack of service provider. We need to bring them to others province, especially to the Siem Reap province that is a bit far from where they are living. And then we bring those specialists to provide a training, capacity building to the, I can say like the local government or the subnational officer, so that they can know, they can at least provide some basic intervention before they refer for the complicated case or other situation. Yeah. So that is what we are doing, and it is good that we bring them together and then start to identify the gap of what the service need for those children. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. We just have, I think, about 5 minutes more in the panel. And so I want to pass it to you, Monica, to talk a little bit about children with special needs, including children who've been exposed to trauma and how you're responding to those mental health needs.
Thank you. Consider we have children who are 3 to 5 to 6 years old. First, they had pandemic and they were locked at home. Then they have more than 1 year of war. So they are 5 and almost all their life they are separated. So we didn't expect it, but we screened all our children and we realized that more than 60% of them have some developmental delays. They have weak muscles, they have spinal skeleton problems. Of course, they have communication problems, very low vocabulary, and we cannot understand what they are talking about. No, our educators don't understand. I don't understand because they are Ukrainian. But anyway, and then most of them have, social problems and emotional problems. They are children of war. And this is much more than we expected. So we decided to prepare our educators to go through the the disability inclusion in whole group. We provide them special training. We collected experts on therapy in a preschool center. We cannot be specialized center for therapy. We are consulting parents. We are referring them to the special centers for therapy if they need it. So this is very huge program. And besides of that, of course, we have children with disability. They are diagnosed in a disability. We have them more than average in population because our Polish settings are not prepared to work with children, Ukrainian children with disability. So we cannot include them into the, public system. So we have more. And now we got some funds for disability program, and we will hire specialists. We will adjust the space to the needs for sensory integration, for training, for workshops, for teachers, and to work with parents, because we believe, and this is our experience, that children cannot be just treated as a, subject, They are belongs to whole family, to whole community. So we are working with parents to help them understand what children need, to help them follow their needs, and we are learning together. We are learning together, educators, specialists, ourselves, and parents, how to help those children. And I think this is the only one solution for that, because we don't have much money. We will not organize specialized care, and those children need peers. They need, of course, a good environment, but they need peers. So this is our idea. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. All right. I think now we'll invite Jane Gao from the USAID Children and Diversity Office to come up and share some information.
Thank you, Catherine. Well, Thanks so much for inviting us here to participate. Really nice to be in a room with everyone, and I really appreciate what was discussed on the panel this morning. So thank you very much, Monica, Immaculée, and Shani for sharing about some of the successes and challenges, the honest challenges with the work that we're all attempting to do, but that you're really doing in country. We, as Catherine mentioned, I lead the Children in Adversity team, and we're really taken with this idea that we can better support the needs of children with disabilities in our programming as we work to advance universal early childhood development. And so just really excited to hear about the integrated and inclusive programming that is happening. I was really struck by some of the creative approaches that you're having to take, as you think through moving towards sustainable action and in terms of both doing the work, but also trying to link it to government services that can ultimately be sustained. It's so important. And I also appreciate kind of the bias for action, Monica, what you were sharing around. We don't have perfect systems. I think often when we think about inclusive work, sometimes we have seen in our programs that we're not necessarily taking action because we hear it's hard. Those on the front lines don't know how to best work with children with disabilities, don't know what to do. So I think just that imperfect, desire to be as inclusive as we can be while also striving towards bettering the program. It's just so important. So just want to commend you all on the tremendous work that you're doing and the chance to share out and learn so that we can continue to do this even better together. As I mentioned, we're really fortunate to program the Vulnerable Children Account. It's resources from Congress that are kind of dedicated for especially vulnerable children. And so a small portion of those funds do go to help support the work in Cambodia and Rwanda. So again, just one of the reasons I'm here. We also as a team coordinate the US government response to a couple of different legislative mandates, but what we have is a US government strategy called Advancing Protection and Care for Children in Adversity, or APCA for short. And the first of the 3 commitment areas in that strategy is this idea of build strong beginnings. And so really working towards holistic early childhood development across many of our programs. I see some colleagues in the room who are alongside us in this journey, and we couldn't do it without the work of our implementing partners and leadership from folks like RTI and others. So thank you for that. We, within that Build Strong Beginnings work, it's really around this idea of helping to support and enhance nurturing care practices alongside the other 2 pillars, which is around family strengthening and child protection. So you hit on a lot of those areas in the examples that you gave today. The other thing that we're doing is responding to the Global Child Thrive Act. So some of you might be familiar with that. We were really pleased to launch implementation guidance for that law earlier this year that was developed alongside technical partners across the agency, really trying to hit on our different sectoral areas of work so that we can do this work together and be more holistic and a little bit less siloed in the work that we're doing. So really trying to push the envelope in our health programming, our education programming, our protection programming to see how we can better meet the needs of children and their families. So really looking forward to seeing how that can be rolled out. And the programs are just so aligned with that work. And so that guidance will be iterative, and we look to continue to update the examples and the learning that is coming out of this type of work. The last thing I wanted to share is that we are updating the strategy. So the strategy runs from 2019 to 2023. We know that childhood today looks really different than it did back in 2018, 2019 when we were developing the strategy. So we will be undertaking, as we always do, a series of consultations this summer to get your input on what really needs to be reflected as we think through some of the areas that don't fit so clearly into one kind of sectoral type of programming, but that can really be brought to bear to better meet the needs again of children and their families, especially those on the bridge. So please join us for those consultations this summer. The goal is to have a new strategy in place for 2024. And the very last thing I wanted to say before I pass the mic back over is just congratulations. Congratulations on the launch of the Center for Thriving Children. It's so exciting to see. None of us can do this work alone. And so kind of a forum for being able to share ideas, to really learn from the programs that we're doing, to use research and implementation science to inform our work means that we'll only be doing better and going further with the limited dollars that we have on behalf of children and families. So thank you. Thanks for including us and congratulations on the work that you're doing. Thanks for being here. I'm flying very far.
We've got a ton of great questions here, and if your question doesn't get asked, please stick around and ask it at the end in a follow-up conversation. I want to start with a really challenging one that I want to make more space for in our global ECD conversations. And this person has written this question in a really articulate way, so I'm going to read it pretty closely. The nurturing care framework is widely accepted in the ECD community, but some academics, particularly in anthropology and cross-cultural psychology disciplines, criticize the framework as being Western and not sensitive enough to local parenting practices and values and norms about childhood. Do you think that the nurturing care framework is fully relevant for your context? Have you made any adaptations? Do you believe that these definitions are sufficient or require additional work to make them more inclusive? Like to go first.
Okay.
Monica, ready?
I don't know if I'm ready, but we are discussing approach for children for many years, and we know that nurturing care, this is the base. We are working with parents. Now we are working with Ukrainian parents, Ukrainian approach, Ukrainian values, Ukrainian culture, and Polish culture, Polish parents, Polish experience. And I think this is a fascinating way. That this is like enriching everything was what we are doing, but this is not easy. Of course, we have different values. Sometimes we are mostly in Poland child-centered, sometimes even too much. Okay, I raised 5 children and I have now 11 grandchildren, so I know what does it mean, raising children in nurturing care system. But I'm joking a little, but this is serious, that allowing children to be themselves, and in the same time creating the system and preparing them for the whole life. This is not easy, and there is no one answer. So rather, I would answer for this question that this is constantly, improving. So like we discuss it, and it's important to have this question open, like not decide, okay, this is good, this is not. You never know what is good, because we don't know the future. We want our children to be prepared, to be self-dependent, to be strong, to be open for others, and to be generous, to be brave. And how we name it, this is the second thing, this is rather what we are doing with them. If we respect them and if we respect their parents as well. Sometimes we don't agree, but we have to respect them.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I agree with what you can say. We always try to contextualize everything we implement or we bring forth, because given in the country is Rwanda, how you go by approaching an intervention in a given district is not always going to be the same in another district, because communities also are different. People have different lifestyles, people have different issues which are local. Therefore, the community has to be at the center of every intervention. and contextualize what you're providing or you're bringing forth as intervention. But I do agree, as Monica was saying, children who need around the world need same thing. They need to grow, have a good health, have good nutrition, have care around them, people who can look after them and provide love and adequate support. And we need to provide an environment for them. So I would say that those basics should be the same, but then we also need to look at the local issues, local challenges, so that we can provide adequate solutions which are sustainable. If you come to the community and preach a certain intervention, but do not look at what the community faces challenge, then the parents will be saying, yes, this is good, but then how can I do that? Because you are not looking at their issues. So what we do, we always prioritize dialogue. We have a lot of opportunities for community dialogue. We have parenting sessions. We have parenting committees organizing around a given early childhood development facility, so that parents can find solutions which are best adequate for them and for that specific context.
Yeah, I add on a little bit to that. The first I can say that the nutrient care framework is all the component of that is really good, especially because as you see the framework, especially I mentioned about the responsive care. It is a very huge essential for the children, especially if they, the caregiver could, provide good responsive care for their children. We take the attitude by just, supporting the children to do things, but we also advocate the caregiver to take time, to participate with their child, not just to feeding them or, try to support them, but let them having others responsible for them, like have something to prepare, like have a plan, to improve the children, have the way to observe what their improvement or something. Another thing I can say about prevention or security, like in Cambodia, maybe that is a bit challenging because I mentioned earlier on about the lack of services. But it is a good thing that if we want to implement or reach to the nutrient care framework, we need to see what the situation of our country right now. What is the services that we need to, empower or improve more, and need to get the involvement from government to make sure that the nutrient care framework will be applied in our country. So I can say that is the goal component. Yeah, of course, in the low-income country, it may be challenge for that, but we should try to find out the solution, right? Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I don't know if you wanted me to respond, but I think the objective one of the ACA strategy that I mentioned really mirrors the language in the nutrient care framework. So we have found it to be a helpful kind of organizing framework. I think you guys have covered it really well. So I would just add two things. I think as an early childhood development field, we've really benefited from so much of the learning and the research coming out of brain science and kind of human biology and how people are developing. So I do think there are some universal truths like families need support, and so pushing for that and ensuring that they have, whether it be adequate childcare that's of quality, or whether it be access to nutritious food and dietary diversity, whether it be I agree. I think there are many indigenous parenting practices that are just things that we don't get right. We should never be assuming that we should never be kind of importing a model for parenting and pushing that. But I do think there are some universal things around how children are developing that can inform kind of our responsive work, and that we should be drawing on where we can. I also think the research around adverse childhood experiences, it's very clear what lack of a nurturing environment can mean for children. So I think the message around trying to promote a protective start as early as possible is a universal message that has been really beneficial in terms of that framework, but a very fair point to whomever offered it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody. We have a bunch of questions. We have a bunch of questions related to financing, funding for ECD. And I'll just basically several of them saying, where's the money going to come from for expanding ECD, expanding pre-primary education, specifically something pre-primary education to early grades education. But I'll just throw out a couple for you guys to comment on. One is, do you think that, and this is actually specifically for you, Immaculate, but maybe others can comment too, do you think that nutrition and nurturing care centers that you support could work with results-based financing? And then a second question, and you might need to have an explanation of results-based financing. Question came from Katie. Could you give us a quick explanation about results-based financing?
Just in terms of the community-based centers, the community is mobilizing, and then there's financing that where sort of the implementer or those who are helping get paid upon results of achieving like child development benchmarks.
Okay, paid upon results of achieving certain things in the centers. And do you feel that there is any compatibility between community-based centers that you're working with and models of private ECE provision? The question for everybody. And whether ECCE could be supported or subsidized by the private sector in any kind of effective way that would help generate finance.
Thank you. Well, to start by whether they can be result-based financing, well, I need to clarify. We do not financially support the DCP facilities to run. We help them to renovate them by providing industrial materials that the community cannot afford. But the renovation work itself is done by the community, and we support with the basic equipment. But then when it comes to running the centers, it's the parents themselves who either rotate to look after children. For example, 10 parents will be all caring for children throughout the week, but they will be doing it through rotation. When they cannot have the time to rotate, then parents will work together to find an incentive for the few caregivers who are going to be doing it on a full-time basis. And I did not have time to go through all the different interventions we do, but one of them is socioeconomic strengthening, where we organize parents so that they can learn how to save money in saving groups. And one of the things they use those the saved money is, for example, to support the early childhood development centers by paying the caregiver, by providing the food needed when children are in the center. So the centers are self-run. We do not fund them. We only support them as they start, but we teach parents so that they can be able to run the services and sustain them. For the other follow-up questions, we did work or in our country, the examples of working with other institutions or private sector to fund or to support scale-up of ECD facilities. One example I can give is working with tea companies through collaboration with the national institution in charge of tea and coffee, because it was observed that in the tea plantations, parents, especially mothers who pick the leaves of trees, they cannot bring their children or babies to work with them. And in our country, usually children who are under 2 years old, they tend to go with their mothers everywhere because they are breastfeeding. So mothers will carry them on their back as they go farm or other different work. But for the tea plantations, parents were not able to bring their children because you cannot take the bag or the load of tea and the baby at the same time. So it became a national, recommendation that NIEB, the institution in charge of tea plantations or tea factories and coffee, recommended all the plantation to have a daycare or a creche at workplace. And it was well understood from those companies, the national agency I mentioned about in charge of early childhood development, explained to all those companies why they will also profit from having the creche, because parents tended to, when they have children, to quit the work and then they will recruit new workers. And also the companies were losing money because they kept recruiting new workers every time because they could not afford to come and leave their babies. But when they have such facility, parents can bring their children and they can also work, and they are motivated to work and stay longer and work better. So now it has become like a common practice. Every tea company has creches at workplace, and they are covered in their budget. They hire caregivers, they provide the food. So I would recommend you to come and visit. I'm very proud of that because it has become really a great success. And we have also other examples working with church leaders. It was noticed that we have lots of churches in Rwanda. I think it's very common in Africa. And you find that from Monday to Saturday or Monday to Friday, the churches are closed because people come to church on Sunday or Saturday for some congregations. So then it was advanced as an idea, like, why can't you use the facilities as early childhood facilities? Because they are empty, they just maybe used for choir practice, but the rest of the time they are just closed. So they started mobilizing church leaders to just avail their space so that children from the community, instead of walking long distance to go find an early childhood development facility or stay home, they can go to the church, and then the remaining work will be to find, identify caregivers and work with parents for the caregivers to receive and attend to. So it's possible to find arrangements and work with what is existing to provide childcare.
I think you covered it. That's great. Jamie, would you comment on the financing results?
Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, I'm happy to comment on that. I did want to first reflect just on this administration in particular, as it relates specifically to early childhood care and education. I think we've seen something really exciting, which is a focus on the provision of quality early childhood care and education as an infrastructure investment. So something that really needs public dollars to go towards resourcing that, again, to be an available support service for working families and for mothers in particular. I think that it's really being viewed as a women's economic empowerment issue right now. And the conversation that we've been having with our gender colleagues is, yes, and the quality is so critical for these types of services that the numbers and the margins, it just doesn't really easily come together. You really need that public subsidization and kind of envisioning this type of investment as a public good investment in human capital, or however you want to put it, but basically really investing in the early years. And it can have so many, we talk about triple or even quadruple dividends if you're making those types of investments in terms of, again, women's economic empowerment, in terms of even youth employment, in terms of those that are running the centers. You mentioned some pretty impressive, 400 working women mothers that you've been able to employ, Monica from Ukraine in the example that you gave. So I just think it's not ever going to be perfectly solved by the private sector, but I do think there is potentially a role. I mean, the example that you gave, where there is an economic benefit to companies really investing in this space and providing quality care on site, is definitely one example. But I think something else, Monica, that you said around really conceptualizing such services in terms of what it is that families and mothers need is so critical. So whether it be extended hours, whether it be location on the work site, whether it be location close to home in the community. You mentioned having to walk long distances for care. And the church-based solution that you shared. I just think with this space, we need to be really flexible and thinking about provision, and the financing, I think, needs to follow suit. So to be directly responsive to your question, I do think we're seeing some interesting examples in terms of results-based financing, where investments in quality or investments in training or investments in the actual developmental outcomes and learning outcomes that we're seeing amongst children in care centers are all innovative ways to bring resourcing to the space. But I do think that ultimately the mobilization of domestic finance and of government resourcing is really critical that that can happen. And then from the USAID side, just more broadly in early childhood development, since I think it was a two-part question, there's no one pot of funding. This is so cross-sectoral that one of the tactics that we're taking is really trying to see where kind of we can push the envelope within our sectoral programming where there is frontline, for example, nutrition service provision happening. Might we be sharing messaging around creating opportunities for early learning, responsive care in the course of counseling that's already happening between frontline workers and family members as it relates to again, diets and health-seeking behaviors and type of thing. So trying to find ways that without completely overburdening an already stretched workforce where these messages can be a little bit more universal and take a more holistic view of children's needs and not be so kind of sectoral with it. So that's one way. We've also seen, I see some ed colleagues in the audience as well. Our education folks have really been leading the charge in terms of growing into pre-primary, and that's been a change since the update of the 2018 education policy and the U.S. government basic education strategy. So we've been learning quite a lot alongside them, and it's really exciting to see that space open up. Same with some of our global health work and really embracing nurturing care in a few different examples. So I'll wrap because I know we probably have other questions, but yeah, thanks.
Great. One more question. I think all three of our panelists could speak to this, and that's about fathers' engagement. We talk a lot about mothers and economic empowerment by being able to have quality childcare for their kids. But we know that fathers play a really crucial role as well in children's early development. And I know too that it can sometimes be hard to engage fathers depending on the context and the type of employment that fathers have. So it'd be great to hear from each panelist about how you engage fathers, if there have been challenges to that, how you overcome those challenges.
I can speak shortly. We almost don't have fathers in our speakers. Fathers are fighting. We have some fathers because there is a rule that if they have more than 3 children, 3 and more children, they can come, whole family, they can come. So sometimes we have fathers, grandfathers. This is amazing. And they are coming and they are volunteering with children. They are playing. And this is, I think, the most important thing for children to have men. We have few men as educators. They are really amazing. They are playing with children and they are like role models for girls and boys. And I think this is very important. And I dream that our fathers will come and play with children in our way, not as a strong man, but as a caring father. This is really, I hope this is the future. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, thank you. So in CRS Rwanda, we also observed that fathers are not very much engaged in looking after children or in activities or interventions we bring forward. So we have social behavior change, communication interventions, and we focus our messaging to men, and because we see that they are lacking in our interventions, but we also have cross-cutting interventions such as saving groups that I have been mentioning. In the village setting, we encourage parents to get together and learn to save money on a weekly basis so that they can have income or money on the side to use for other things. Mm-hmm. And you find that men are prone to come to those saving groups more than other activities. And it's also an opportunity because they're interested in economic activities and they are interested in coming and learning how to save money. So when they come, they do not only organize the saving activity, but they also use it as an opportunity for other messages so that they can learn how the importance of being engaged in raising children, how to support child development milestone, how to prepare a nutritious meal for their children, so that at least they get the message, and then we ensure that they can also attend other interventions after receiving that message.
Father, you can say.
Yeah, sure. So for Cambodia, we also have one program called Male Engagement Program. So we do the same thing like Maclay mentioned. Is we have the BCC message to bring this message to the community that not only women that can look after or take care of the children, but male also is involved like that. So we have the Nurturing Care Connected that it is used for specifically for male group. So we have like the Nurturing Care session for the women, and then we have another specific Nurturing Care Connected for the male groups. So of course they have a busy time for fighting for income generation or something. So we need to be adaptive for their available time. So we do the session in the evening while they come back from work, they come back from farm or something like that. And then we also like in our another we have a peer support group meeting. So we encourage the Cambodians to join the session. So because they are working for another farm or something, but we try to find out what the available that the male or the father could be joined in the session, because we say that we require both parents to join in the peer support group meeting, because we want them to share their knowledge about look after the child, and we want to find the model like I can say that the man who look after or the child, and bring them up and then let them say about why they are take a time to look after their child, not just about their wife, but they also need to involve something. So we try to do another way, not just the BCC, but we find out I can say like the model one, and then let them saying to their group of men why you need to involve or something. So that is another thing that we do. We call the male engagement program. Yes, throughout the Nurturing Care Connected, bring them together, and also during the peer support group that we require them to join both for the meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I think we'll wrap up our panel here, and please join me in thanking our guests. Conclude today. We're going to hear some final remarks and reflections from Dr. Maureen Black, who is a distinguished fellow at RTI in Childhood Development. She's also a professor of pediatrics at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. She chairs the Child Health Foundation and the advisory board of Maryland Hunger Solutions, and was a founding member of Children's Health Watch, a collaborative of 5 medical centers designed to provide evidence-based, policy-relevant information on linking material hardships, including food security, to the health and development of young children. She has served on the committees, various committees for UNICEF, WHO, the World Bank, the American Psychological Association, the Society for Research in Child Development, and much more. She is the author of over 400 peer-reviewed journal articles and book chapters, and is a tremendous mentor to the rest of us at the Center for Thriving Children. So thank you to you, Maureen.
Thank you, Catherine. What a pleasure. What a pleasure it has been to be here today. I loved hearing this panel and your insight into what thriving children really are, and how we can help thriving children and ensure that our children can thrive. I was involved with a group that put together some of the thoughts related to nurturing care, and you embodied it. It was just so grabbing. You absolutely showed what it is like in reality, in the field. So Immaculata, Monica, Chani, and of course, Jamie from USAID, you are really amazing. And I thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. I think they need another round of applause. Thank you very much. My job is to summarize a little bit. I think that I've certainly learned a tremendous amount this morning. And to think where the Center for Thriving Children is headed and what we can do in the future. And what we've learned is that we need partners. As we move forward, we need to partner with you. We need to partner with our countries throughout the world, that we cannot do this alone. The benefits of helping children thrive are immeasurable. That if we want children to be able to look after themselves, to look after their families, to look after our countries, to make wise decisions, then we need to start right in the beginning, very, very early on. That Jamie mentioned the brain science, and what we have learned is that the brain science starts before children are even born. It starts very, very early, and we have opportunities during those times. We also have skills to be able to bring things there. So we know that we need to start early, and that you could hear the holistic aspect of it. Kids need health, they need nutrition, they need opportunities to learn, they need protection, and they need to be able to form the relationships so that they have the caring and they have the desire. They need to receive respect so they can give respect. And that has to start early on, and then it continues and continues. So our steps in the center, there are two primary goals that we're working on. One is to scale the things that we're doing, to have them to move forward, just as the title of this launch is. The title includes 3 I's. What does it include? Implementation, integration, and inclusion. And I would add another I to that title, and that is innovation. And that comes by working together and working with governments, working with private societies also, and understanding that it isn't easy. You showed us it isn't easy, but can it be done? You showed us that too. It can be, and it will be. So we have certainly a major goal in working towards scaling programs so that they're more widely available and they are inclusive. The other aspect that we do as part of RTI is we have a mission to deliver the promise of science for the global good. So how will we do that? How will we do that? Well, we will generate and synthesize the information, what we have learned, and we are continuously learning. So part of our role is to do that, is to generate and to synthesize. And as Catherine mentioned, we'll be doing that over the coming months and sharing information with you. And sharing means bi-directional, goes both ways. So we need information from you, and we share information, and we do these things together. So I'll just give you 2 examples of what we are doing and will continue to do. One is that we recently edited a supplement to Pediatrics, which is the leading journal of the American Academy of Pediatrics, and it includes 15 papers. One of the papers was led by Catherine King, and it's a protocol paper for the Cambodia project. The other papers include one from Rwanda that has early child development and violence prevention, and with 9 other countries. So you will receive a link to the supplement if you've registered for the launch. Another product that we will share with you in the fall is that we've been involved in looking at caregiving among parents who have a child with disability. This is a mixed method study that is led by Claire and Betsy. Raise your hands. And they will be sharing that in the fall. So there are many more products to come, and we look forward to our partnership with you. With that, we will close. Please don't leave. You're welcome to have another cup of coffee and ask questions to those of us who are around. So please stay and chat, and we look forward to working together. Thank you.